3 years down the line, I was so involved with everything that I forgot to appear for the examination. Forgot. मैं अकेला ही चला था जाने में मंजिल मगर लोग मिलते गए और कारवां बनता गया. And as I failed in all 3 subjects, obviously I had a back.
People who know him.
How do they find their own brand when they feel that I've just played by rules and I'm just here, I'm just doing like what everybody else does? So what should they do?
It is hard to build, easy to destroy.
Our next guest on Uvacha is Abhishant Pant. Abhishant is the founder of the Fintech Meetup, India's largest fintech ecosystem, where he catalyzes the startup ecosystem by bringing access to knowledge, network, and capital. He is an investor in M2P, OneCard, GoKiwi, FeeCommerce, Discovery, PayGlocal, and many other fintech startups. However, Abhishant considers his biggest achievement as finding Richa as a life partner who understands and acts as a pillar of support in the Fintech Meetup journey. Let's welcome Abhishant Pant.
Okay, welcome to Uvacha. Thank you, Abhishant, for giving us your time. So in Uvacha, what we aim to do is unbox some patterns, unleash some perspectives that's going to help people. So it's going to be very conversational and it's great to have you. So Shubhang, you want to go ahead and quickly give a very quick, brief intro of how you met Abhishant, and then we'll hear.
It's very hard to introduce him to people. People who know him. I think we should allow him to do the introduction himself. But Abhishant has been a dear friend for over 8-9 years now.
Yep.
Great.
And I've also had the privilege of being a student in some sense.
All of us are a student.
And now, of course, also we've invested in a few startups together.
Yeah.
So Abhishant, thank you so much for making time.
Pleasure.
Truly appreciate your presence here.
Pleasure. Thanks a lot for having me. And I think all of this is conversations, in my view, are all about discovering yourself and in the process discovering the world around you. If you remember in your MBA days, there was a concept called Johari window. In Johari window, the 4th window is you don't know, I don't know.
Yeah.
In my mind, the progress of world lies in that, which is you don't know, I don't know. And in that spectrum, what emanates out of that is because of dialogue.
Yeah.
So what today we'll have a conversation, possibly I and you will discover some certain things which are absent otherwise.
Absolutely. Where do we start, Saveen?
Yeah.
With a bit.
I think this is a great context for the conversation, Abhishant. So, in brief, I know it's very difficult to describe somebody's career in brief. So, how has your journey been till now? What have you done, and how did you get
Start with where you're born. Okay?
So, I was born in Lucknow, नवाबों के शहर में, and from Lucknow moved on. I was brought up in Meerut. From Meerut to Gwalior to Jabalpur to Indore. From there, some parts of Madhya Pradesh, then to Jharkhand, then few years in Pune, and then finally in Bombay.
Why did you have to move so many places?
My father was working with the Army Audit, and as a result of that, he was first in Meerut. So we were there in Meerut. Then he went to Gwalior, so we went there, and so and so. So therefore, we kept on traveling.
Wow.
And as a result of which, what a travel does to you, or sorry, not travel per se, but what essentially getting uprooted on a consistent basis does to you is this, that you don't kind of align yourself with one particular environment. Somebody recently asked me, how do you like Bombay per se? I said, I find it as good as Korba. And he was like, what the fuck you are talking about? Yaar, Korba and Bombay, how they are related as such. I said, no, any city for me is essentially about a microcosm of what my circle is.
Correct.
That's it. So if my circle is great in Korba and I had an amazing time in Korba, it's the same out here.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two?
Where is Korba, sorry?
Korba is in Chhattisgarh. It is a small town of around 70,000 people. It is coal belt of India, where from much of coal comes.
Coal.
And that's where from where I started my working career as such.
Fantastic. And tell us a little bit about your recent journey. I think 2017-18 is when you took the leap of faith.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So the leap of faith, essentially, I think somewhere it started much earlier than that. I was always curious kid. In 80s, I used to kind of write in my small notebook anything which I'll find amusing. Like in 80s, I used to write in my small diary that by 2020, men will be on Mars. Those were the pieces which used to come in 80s. And I used to write. I used to find them amusing.
I think Elon Musk stole that book in some way.
So that kind of, all those things which were essentially about breaking the defined boundaries were amusing to me. I used to write those things. And then that happened for a very long period of time. Then when I joined my job, that also kind of happened. I joined in banking, and that was the worst thing that I wanted to do, because I thought, ye musse nahi ho payega. I won't be able to do it, frankly. But I joined there. And then finally 2018 happened because of the risks that I took over the period of time. I started the Fintech meetup in 2018. It's an entity which essentially works on three aspects of a startup. We build startup communities, we help them with coverage of institutions, and then some of them we invest capital. So it's essentially a intersection of community, capital, and coverage. That's what we do.
Fantastic. And you said over the period of time you built this risk. So your reference to risk as a muscle, right? I think it's very evident in your journey that constantly uprooting. So can you talk us through about this risk? How do you build risk as a muscle?
And why is it important?
Yeah, why is it?
And okay, so maybe the start of it essentially happened sometime in 1999. What happened in that year is that 1998 is when I did my 12th, and all my batchmates were amazing in their academics. All of them, some of them became doctors, got into MBBS. One of my batchmates was that year IIT ranked 17th. And so they did amazingly well in their personal spaces. And I was doing nothing. So I was the only guy who I did my 12th with 63%. I did my 10th with 65%. So I was going down on a consistent basis. And the only thing which my parents were happy for was the fact कि यार लड़के की संगत अच्छी है, which means that he has a good company, but we don't know why the heck he is not finding anything for himself. So they were happy for that, but not for my company. And then 1999, when nothing happened, I joined BSc, Bachelor in Sciences is what I started with. 3 years down the line, I was so involved with everything that I forgot to appear for the examination.
Forgot.
So I forgot to appear for the second year of my exam, BSc second year. So I obviously failed in that. They pushed me via grace marks. So I scored some 32, passing marks were 33. They pushed 2 numbers and I got into the next stage. Then worst happened in 2002, which is 2002, when my BSc final year was there. In BSc final year, I failed in all 3 subjects. So second year I failed in 1, third year I failed in all. I failed in physics, chemistry, maths. 1, 2, 3 is the number with which I failed them. And as I failed in all 3 subjects, obviously I had a back. So I did my BSc in 4 years. So I used to tell my parents and my friends that because all of you did engineering and because your engineering was 4 years, I did my BSc in 4 years so that I can pass out at the same time as you people are moving out. So, and then it was going down. So 65 10th, 63 12th, 43% was BSc. So I did my graduation with 43%.
And did you do MBA? That would have been
after that, what happened? And this was the inflection period of my life. 2002, when I failed in my BSc, I went home. That was the longest distance I have traveled in my life. I have not traveled more distance than that. My college and my home was 2 kilometers. I don't know if I've traveled longer distance than that. That day when I went from my college to my home, and then my parents got to know about it, was the longest day of my life. And that day I said, "Ki, now I need to do something in life." That day possibly changed everything.
So when you mean longest, it's not the distance, it's the journey that
it's
you
the
went.
journey that you take, and
Internally.
that journey was. And when I came back, my parents said nothing and all, because that was also the period when there were a number of suicides were happening. My parents were concerned that ladka kahin chhat se na kood jaye. So as they were concerned that something can happen, so they did not say anything. In fact, more than my parents, my neighbors and friends' parents were worried. So one of my friend's parent, he came to college to put a sifarish for me कि इसको pass कर दो. My father did not go anywhere. That and that was possibly so, because my father did not say anything. That was the thing that hurt the most. He neither said good nor said bad. Nothing. So possibly that changed, and that's how I essentially thought that there is nothing to lose from this point onwards. And there was nothing to lose from that point onwards. That was the starting point of building a risk muscle. That's when finally next year I prepared for MBA, went into an MBA, which was from an average rung B school, did not kind of got into a big B school per se. Did my MBA, got a job and started. But because I started from a point wherein there was nothing to lose,
Everything felt exciting.
everything felt that, okay, there is something which I have achieved in life.
So, up until your BSc story, it is many of our friends, many of people we know would have gone through that sort of a life up until their
Until
college,
Bill Clinton
right?
came into your life.
no, I mean in the sense like,
Yeah.
12, 60% BSc, just whatever, pass BSc or graduation, whatever. But not everyone takes that curve back up. What actually are the traits that you see of people, and you meet with people every day? There are people who do really well and they come back up versus people who give up. What is your advice for people who are in that state as we speak?
So I was never a bad student. I was somebody who was.
Is this your self-appraisal or
It was not my self-appraisal. It is the people around me.
Okay.
Because I had no bad habit back then, even today. So when I failed in BSc, I was 22. I had no bad habit, no bad company. My company was extremely brilliant set of people. Amazing set of people was my company. And again, I'm not getting into self-praise because there is no reason for that. But I was extremely good in what I could communicate back then as well. And and teachers used to look up to me because they used to think this is the guy who can state things which are not defined in nature.
Yeah.
So I was somewhere not made for a defined academic environment. I was not made for that because I could never concentrate on that. I was always doing 10 more things rather than doing academics.
Yeah.
I never did academics as good as such. So therefore, possibly what worked for me when I decided to take that call is that I channelized those energies in the right direction. Energy was always there, inclination was always there. I don't think if I should use that word in the right frame, but it was actually intellectual brilliance, which was there. It was never channelized in the academic outcome.
Yeah.
And I could never do that. In fact, during my MBA also, I could never do that. So I thought that why to then making even effort for that? Do what you are good at. So possibly the advice that I will have for people is this, that doesn't matter if you are not good at academics, please do what you are good at, and that will take you where you want to go.
Yeah. Is it the structure of the current education system that you feel lacks the ability to channelize? There are many students like you, right? The good thing is, I think in some sense you found your confidence
I was always confident.
Despite the failure. So
I
sometimes
was overconfident always.
exactly. So there are people who are similarly, as you rightly said, intellectually capable like you,
Yeah.
but probably they are bogged down by the report cards that are given and the societal pressure. So that overconfidence that you're speaking about is so critical in evaluating yourself and tiding over the challenges that you said. Otherwise, if you just see a report card like this,
Yeah.
it could just bring you down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I somehow feel that you understood what you really bring to the table and you backed yourself up.
So frankly, I will put it this way, that what helped me are fundamentally two things. One is the fact that I had an amazing company of friends with whom I am still kind of connected. In fact, some of us are taking our parents, all of us are going together to Darjeeling next month. And it's been 30 years since we know each other. One, the set of people you go around with. My set of people was absolute brilliant. They were academically par excellence from the set of people point of view. Every single person in my batch, in the same year as they moved out of 12th, none of them took a break other than me. Every one of them was either a doctor or went to NDA or IIT or NIT or somewhere else. And it was a small batch of 23. Each one of them did exceedingly well in their career per se. And they were academically great. And all of them were friends. To me, somebody who was academically very poor. So one, my company was great. Second, my parents never submitted a pressure, despite of the fact that we were, in that sense, I will not call a middle class, because frankly, we essentially categorize ourselves as middle class, while I won't say we were middle class, we were lower middle class. So my parents never submitted a pressure on me to do certain things. So I had no pressure from my parents' side of achieving an outcome. It's not as if that my father had a lot of money. Frankly, no. My father started from a 600 rupee job in a defense accounts department in 1978. So we never had so much money, but it's just that they were always somewhere confident of the fact that he is not doing wrong things in life.
Yeah.
So he will go somewhere, but theek hai. So I think these two things matters the most.
And I also feel that when they see that confidence in you, then they are also trusting that a little bit.
Somewhere, I'll put it this way, that my parents have lived an extremely simple life, and because because they never went into desires a lot, and there were very few things we would have done from a greed perspective. Need and
Any
greed.
instance that comes to your mind about this?
My father, while working with central government, they had access to LTC, which is essentially the leave travel piece wherein you can go and see places and all of that. I think in almost 35 years of my father's job, we would have gone to 3.5 places. So we would always go to our grandparents' place and so on and so forth and all of that. So rather than prioritizing our own travel somewhere, we would always prioritize going to parents' places. So I think, and very, very, very few, I think in almost 24 years for which I stayed with my parents, we would have not even gone 24 times outside to eat. Our outside eating would have been 8 to 10 times in those 24 years in totality. We would have not seen 8 movies in those 20. I remember the last movie we saw together was in Ghaziabad, the Loni border, Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, 1994. That was the last movie we saw together, and that was also second or third movies that we saw together. So we were never kind of...
So essentially living your life with less wants and desires, but just...
Yeah, and you spoke about this, right? That's what drives you. And you had a very interesting quote.
So somewhere I will put it this way, that if your needs and wants are less, you are in a position to do a lot more than what you otherwise can. And that's what possibly differentiates you from, because most of the times we are basically a output of our desires. If your desires are less, you can do a lot more. So if I am not looking to graduate from a 1 BHK to a 2 BHK to a 3 BHK to a 4 BHK, then I'm good with my life. When we could afford a 2 BHK in Bombay, we chose to buy a 1 BHK. When we could afford a bigger car, we had a Zen Estilo. So we could, with the kind of salaries we had, we could buy a Zen Estilo every month. But we had a Zen Estilo. Why? Because the function of a car is to take you from one place to another. So why do you need a larger one?
So yeah, Abhishant, I think one of the things that I started engaging with you with was brand called you.
Yeah.
Talk us about how did you kind of get into this concept of individuals having a brand?
I think somewhere when we were talking about the risk-taking appetite and risk muscle getting built and all of that, fundamentally it comes from two things: need and greed. So my philosophy in life around that is कि क्योंकि मेरी ज़रूरतें कम हैं इसलिए मेरी दम है. What is that if I am not looking to move from a 1 BHK to 4 BHK in my life, which is essentially greed, and if I can live in, and I can travel in a general compartment of a train even today with sitting next to a bathroom, then that means I can survive with limited things. So if your needs are limited and your greeds are not there in that sense, you can achieve a lot more, because otherwise you are just running for your need and greed.
Needs and ambitions should not be confused.
Yeah, absolutely.
So zarurate can be
Yeah.
low,
Yeah.
but how do you kind of balance that? Because ambitions will
So it's like this, that what if you want to achieve something,
because I know you as one of the
Yeah.
more ambitious person in life on the other side.
I won't say that I'm not ambitious. I'm
So-
extremely ambitious. I want to do 100 things. But the point is that those 100 things that I want to do, what is the purpose of doing that thing?
Yeah.
Are those things being driven to achieve an outcome which is larger and beyond us? Or am I doing it for just my own sake? If I'm doing for my own sake, then that is driving my own greed. However, if I'm doing it for a larger purpose, then it has impact and possibilities. So focus has always been that larger purpose, which ensures that I am always secondary to the purpose. So when you are secondary to the purpose, that takes care of everything. So ambitions should not be confused with your needs. I can be ambitious to impact 1,000 startups, but the desire could be that I want to make 100 crores out of it. My focus is that 1,000. 100 crore is a byproduct. So one of these startup X in whom we invested around ₹1 crore in that. At that point of time, the total balance in my account was that much money. And I got a call from the founder and he said, we are raising capital. I said, I'll invest. He said, how much you want to? I said, I have 92 lakhs in my account. He said, okay. I transferred that money. That's the entire conversation. I had 92 lakhs in my account. I transferred 92 lakhs to that guy in next 2 days time frame.
No, but break it down. I mean, it's not like you spoke to him
For the first
for the first time.
No, I did not spoke to him for the first time. I knew him for 5 years.
Yeah.
We had known each other for a long period of time. That 92 lakh today should be around 50 odd crores. But is that the driver? No.
Yeah.
The driver is that yesterday night when I was going back, I met that guy. I was going back. He said, "Tu chal, कहते हैं उसे, the driver will drop me to some place and he will drop you home." I said, नहीं ज़रूरत नहीं. He said, नहीं चल. And then we kept on arguing and he said, no. And I went to drop him to Chembur and his driver dropped me to Powai. That's earning. The money in account has no value. that is what the earning is. So
Yeah, I think in a large sense, what I've seen in the purpose of what you do, Abhishant, is that ability to have that social impact. I think that has been a key driving factor.
He uses the word social currency. I don't know if
Social
you've heard of
currency. Yeah.
What is that?
social currency in my mind is the standing that you have in the market, which can have positive rub off to people in and around you, and people's belief in the fact that the value that you bring on table has an equivalence to something that can be traded. So social currency in that sense is that brand that you build for yourself, which has the possibility of impacting people in and around you and has a value which can be ascribed to it. That's how I'll put social currency to be. And it is hard to build, easy to destroy. Extremely hard to build.
And this is very well connected to the brand you that you spoke
Yeah.
about, right? So for you, I think building that risk muscle and taking that leap of faith, and as you said, मैं moments में decision लेता हूँ. So these are things that define who you are.
Yeah.
Now for another professional who's stuck in mid management
Yeah.
in a large corporate or wherever they
or
are,
feel stuck.
or feel stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How should they start thinking about building their own brand or exploring? Because आपका तो exploration, I think from childhood, because of, as you said, uprooting yourself to different cities and risk-taking ability and constantly challenging the norm, and that became your brand. So what should they do who are finding it difficult to define themselves? Because I think, as you rightly said, 90% of the society is stuck in rules defined by people for a generic crowd. Like everybody wants to get to the 80s or 90s in their marks and just be there and be that person's just playing by the rules.
Yeah.
Versus how do they find their own brand when they feel that I've just played by rules and I'm just here, I'm just doing like what everybody else does. So what should they do?
I think people should do one single thing which will help them a lot is to see patterns of their own life. It takes a while for you to do that, but if you can see patterns of your own life, you will start discovering and uncovering the onion from peel by peel point of view, that who you are. When I look back, I see myself as a curious kid who was always curious and was willing to take certain risks.
Correct.
मैंने अपने पिताजी की जेब से अपनी माँ के पर्स से पैसे चुराए. मैं इतना हरामी था that I remember I was 6-year-old and my father was taking myself and my sister on a bicycle. My sister used to sit in the danda and I used to sit in the back. My father used to drop us to the school. And I needed 2 rupees that day. I ventured inside the pocket of my father, took out 2 rupees, and my father did not got to know that. I was 6-year-old. While he was bicycling us to the school. 2 रुपए चुरा लिए थे. तो और ये काम मैंने बहुत लंबे समय तक करा. मैं दुकान में घुस करके उस दुकान से, कॉमिक्स की दुकान से, मुझे कॉमिक्स पढ़ना इतना पसंद था, आई वुड गो इन टू अ शॉप एंड विल स्टील द कॉमिक्स आउट. मैं दुकान में घुस करके सामान चोरी कर सकता था. एंड आई हैव डन दैट 100 times. सो वो जो चीज़ है ना, and then it kept on growing from here and there and all of that. So the curiosity, the ability to take that risk, of getting into your father's pocket and taking out 2 rupees, getting into a shop at the age of 8 and stealing a comics at the age of 8. I have stole comics in front of Rajmandar Cinema in Jaipur at unknown places.
I hope they're not listening to this podcast.
How does it matter? So basically, it is something which is an incremental piece. So you need to see patterns of your own life. I saw, when I looked back, I realized that I had that ability to take risk, unnecessary, obscene risk, willingness to kind of pay for that risk. My father has, I have had sandals from my father even at the age of 22. मेरे पिताजी ने मुझे ग्रेजुएशन तक चप्पल से मारा है. So I have had that. And curiosity, willingness to take risk, and then incrementally never stopping to ask a question which can be difficult to ask.
I think there's a lot of courage in the way you have done things, right? So
No, but wait. I want to actually understand still. So you spoke about
finding patterns.
finding patterns.
Yeah.
What after finding patterns?
What after finding pattern is to kind of see that can you take an incremental call, slow and steady incremental call, to build on those patterns. So once you realize that you're curious, can you essentially do one single damn thing for your curiosity? Which is, if you find that you are curious, and if you are a mid-career professional and you have seen that, can you just take out 5 days from your life, busy life, to go to an unknown place wherein you don't know anyone, and just go there and be there and explore that place? That's the easiest thing that you can do. What an unknown place does to you is this, that it makes you uncomfortable. And the slow and steady piece, when you undertake the journey of being uncomfortable and being comfortable with being uncomfortable, is that wherein you start. So if I am a mid-career professional, I know I am curious. I know that the first thing I should do is 3 दिन की छुट्टी लो, किसी unknown जगह पे चले जाओ, and just explore that place. That's the least that you.
How does it help me identify what my brand is?
What it does is this, that one, when you are in an unknown place and you don't know anyone, it helps you in discovering your own ability
Yeah.
to exchange outcomes with people you have no clue with.
Yeah.
Just to break it down for our listeners, right? That you look back into your life, find some patterns,
Yeah.
and then you feel excited about those patterns. So sometimes you find some patterns that you really want to fix,
Yeah.
not really. Like curiosity is an excitement factor for you.
Yeah.
Risk taking is exciting for you. So you sort of explore it in smaller areas first, and then it sort of grows on you, and that's how you find your brand,
Yeah.
right? By doing it, taking those bigger leaps of faith and so on and so
It happens
forth.
incrementally.
Yeah.
So you take one step, and then you'll take another step, then
Yeah.
you'll take another step, and then you'll take another step.
And you're saying that, and behind all of this, in terms of what you've done also, is that courage to explore and find out.
Because because the fundamental belief is this, that you don't have anything to lose.
Yeah. No, that's your brand.
Huh.
I'm just making it wider for anybody listening to us.
Yeah.
कि अगर वो they want to find उनका brand, they need to do this, and their brand could be something else.
Their brand could be something else.
Which if they find something exciting, interesting, and a lot of us sit on it, कि कोई और आके
Yeah.
they should define who I am,
Yeah.
tell me what I should do,
Yeah.
and things like that. And what I see in your journey essentially is to take that leap of faith
Yeah.
and do it because you like being curious. You have done this, and you understood that risk taking is who I am.
Yeah.
And so let me do it for the rest of my
And
life.
just go with the flow.
Yes.
At least take that baby step. So, and then keep on improvising. Like my first port of thought was that I'll take a walk from Kamshed to Lonavala.
Yeah.
I walked 2 kilometers and started raining heavily. As it started raining heavily, now you need to improvise. So I took a lift in a tractor.
Yeah.
And I sat on the back of that tractor, and the tractor guy drove till next 3 kilometers. Then it was still raining. I kept on walking in that rain. Then after a few meters, there's a bike guy who came. I asked him to give a lift. He gave me a lift to another point. Then I walked from there. So that 27 kilometer of distance, which I thought that I will walk, I had to improvise because there was a rain. So be open and willing to improvise in the process.
Yeah.
If you realize that it is not working the way you want to.
And it is effort. That's what I'm bringing it back to, right? It is effort to explore and find your brand. It is not that somebody will define it for you and give it on a platter. And some things you do, you'll realize, अच्छा ये तो मैं नहीं हूँ.
Yeah.
And then you have to go back and do something else. So I think doing different things just to find out who you are, and as you said, find those patterns and building on it really helps you define your brand.
I'm reminded of a conversation I had over the weekend. I landed on Sunday, met my MBA friends, and one of them was talking about how they're just busy in their career, but they really want to do something else.
Yeah.
And they're not able to, they don't know what is the starting point. And I think that putting yourself in an uncomfortable scenario could be a great starting point for
It is
anybody.
the starting point.
It is the
It
starting
is the
To
starting
even, yeah.
And अनफॉर्चुनेटली होता क्या है कि वी कीप ऑन फाइंडिंग रीजंस ऑफ नॉट डूइंग दैट.
Yeah.
You find one reason of doing that and you will find, oh, it is working. And we have consistently got ourselves into uncomfortable positions, sometimes foolish also, sometimes completely nonsense. Like last year we thought Everest base camp karna chahiye. We just did that.
In
You
fact,
did it?
Yeah, we did.
Achha.
Without preparation. No preparation. None at all. We just landed at base camp and did it. That's it.
you know, in a sense, even this podcast is something like that. You know,
Yeah.
We just, so last 2 years, in fact, it's been January 2022 is when I came to India last with family, and I bought something mic like this because dimag mein tha that I want to do podcast. Why I don't know.
Okay.
I bought this and went, and it was on my table for the last 2 years. I didn't know
What to do.
how to do,
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah.
But then one day we started talking, and I said, you know what, let's do it. Even now we don't know why we're doing it,
Yeah.
but we know that this is something
Exciting.
that excites us, and
Yeah.
this is our kind of stepping into the zone of discomfort to actually kind of start something that we don't know what's going to.
You know what we cherish most as individuals is this. We always cherish most as individuals is something which can give, and something which stays with us na is a good conversation. For me is वो होता है ना, कहते हैं आपके फोड़ा हुआ है और आप खुजला रहे हो, आपको मज़ा आ रहा है, मज़ा आ रहा है, मज़ा आ रहा है, मज़ा आ रहा है. फोड़ा बड़ा भी हो जाता है कई बार वो उस मज़े के चक्कर में, बट आपको मज़ा आ रहा है. इज दैट फोड़ा विदाउट दैट उसका बड़ा होना. यू आर इंजॉइंग इट, you are loving it. We did an experiment some time back and we said that what if people are given free hand to just talk, and it was on a subject, we call it Guftagu, and in that we got 12 people. We started talking at 2:30 in the afternoon. We ended up at 11:30. As our basic nature, we love to have a conversation as individuals. So in that sense, I think every single opportunity that we get to do that is a moment of joy and happiness, and you are taking some good memories back. What your neural networks desire is taking some good memories back.
Yeah.
Do it for that.
Yeah.
So what next?
What next? Frankly, I don't know, because we keep on experimenting, we keep on doing things. This year, April, we did Everest Base Camp. The next level to Everest Base Camp is Mount Kilimanjaro. That we'll do next year, January, February. So that's the next thing. Rest, we keep on experimenting, we keep on doing things, and we'll continue to do that. And all of this is possible because the reason what we were discussing, which is social currency. Social currency, fundamentally, it helps you do a lot of things which others cannot. The reason why you need to plan so much is because of the fact that you do not have enough network and capabilities to do it, and therefore you need to plan a lot to bring everything together.
Yeah.
People who have a social currency in place, either you have capital which can move needles,
Yeah.
or you have social capital which can move needles.
Yeah.
So you need either. So either you are an Ambani who has got hell lot of money to catalyze every single damn thing.
Yeah.
So if he wants to do something, he can put lot of capital and do that thing tomorrow. Or you have social capital to mobilize people because of that, and you can do that.
Yeah.
So for us, what has happened is this, that because in last so many years, we could build a lot of social capital. As a result of that, if you want me to do something tomorrow, I can do that. And as a result of that, we don't plan a lot. And as a result of that, we don't define a lot what we should do tomorrow, because we know that we can do it tomorrow.
So how should one build social capital? Because everyone is talking about how to build capital,
Yeah.
money. How do you build?
I know.
How to build social capital? Fundamental, बहुत simple piece. When you get associated with somebody, you get associated with, frankly, if it is outside of your circle, दोस्त, यार, गाड़ी आज तेरा भाई चलाएगा वाला जो circle है, if you go out of that circle, then it is all people who are at periphery. They are never at the center of your life. Therefore, why should they have any alignment with you? Their only reason of alignment with you is who you are from a market standing point of view. So when people get associated, people were getting associated with a senior professional at Oak North. They were not getting associated with Shubhanga Prasad. They were not getting associated with what Shubhanga stands for, and versus they were standing for the position which Shubhanga represents. So what we should do if we want to build a social currency is just to build a comfort in our mind at the first place that we'll remove our professional designations out of our defined world and let the world see who we are, rather than our designations. So what I did in 2013 is that when I was writing on LinkedIn, and that was very early period of LinkedIn, there are not many people who would write. And I used to write. At one fine day, somebody who was from Copcom in my at that point organization reached out and said that, boss, you are writing a lot, this is not good thing, and you are
not associated with our brand.
Not associated with our brand, you all write nonsense and all of it. I said, okay, fine, what should I do? They said, no, your organization and designation is associated with that, you should not do that. I said, okay, fine, will it work if I remove that? And that person was a bit taken aback because nobody said that to them. That, okay,
did they say, no, I will have to check with my boss?
No, he said, okay, theek hai, if you are removing your designation and your organization is not mentioned, then fine. So I said, okay. So the next day I removed it. That acted as blessing in disguise in the hindsight.
And this you did for like 5-6 years?
This till the time I left my last job. So from 2013 to 2018, the formative year of my social capital creation or social currency creation, people who got associated with me 2013 to 2018 had no idea which organization I represent. Most often than not, when I would meet them, they would, "Arey, okay, अच्छा आप यहाँ काम करते हो?"
You also do this.
So I remember a conversation, and this has happened across the world.
No, but that is true. Even I didn't know what. When I met him in 2015, I didn't know he was working. Also.
I went. So as part of visa, I had Bangladesh as one of the market I was looking for. I went to Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, there is a bank called BRAC. I went to BRAC's office, and the gentleman who was heading retail banking from BRAC, he said, "By any chance, are you Abhishant Pant?" This guy, and he had my photograph in his mobile. 2015 and 2016 early की बात होगी कभी की. And I was surprised that Bangladesh ढाका में बैठे हुए आदमी के पास में, and he had some 7-8 photographs of me doing one or the other thing. I said, साला यहाँ कहाँ से पहुँच गया? That's when I realized the power of it. And he was so happy, he took photographs, he bought his entire team we took a group photograph with 100 people.
But he had heard of what?
He had heard of my experiment. The cashless journey experiment.
Yeah.
So, and he had no clue that I worked with Visa. So what helped, and he is still in touch. So what helped is that he got associated with the value that I stood for, rather than my designation. That when I left my job at Visa in 2018, when I went out to market to people, I already had 100 people whom I can reach out to. And when I started Fintech Yatra in 2018, we raised approximately 1.5 crore ka sponsorship for that. Somebody who had no clue of what he was supposed to do, people were willing to put money on that guy.
And that's because of the social currency.
That's because of the fact that they got associated with the idea and not the designation. So make your idea more prevalent and more powerful than who you are from a designation point of view. So if you really want to build your social identity in the world, remove your designation from that.
I think removing designation is not just
on
LinkedIn per se, but I think from your whole approach, the way you connect with people. Are you saying all of that? Because that's what I'm seeing in what you've done.
Yeah. So it starts from the fact that you are good with the idea that you don't see yourself as an embodiment of a designation. You see yourself as a human who has something to say to the world.
Or something to give.
Something, even if it is nothing to give, it is also about defining for your own self who you can be and what do you want to be. Shubhanga was frustrated with me for the longest period of time because I had a view about an individual who was associated with him, and I said, iske saath nahi karenge kaam. Because he has a different view of the world and I have a different view of the world.
I was not frustrated.
At least I felt कि यार. So, essentially to say that you have a view of the world and how much you are willing to lose for that view of the world.
Yeah.
So I was good with the idea that theek hai. So somebody told me that on one occasion I wrote to CII IIM Ahmedabad stating that we'll never work with you. So he said, are you mad? Why the heck you did that? Why? Because of the simple reason that when I left my job 5 years back, I did not leave it with the view कि ये लोग मुझे मिलेंगे मेरी जर्नी में, तब मेरी जर्नी बनेगी ना. मैंने तो इसलिए जर्नी ली थी क्योंकि मुझे लगता था मुझे ये लेनी है. इस बात से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि ये लोग जुड़ेंगे कि नहीं जुड़ेंगे.
Correct.
Right? So my journey should be a function of who I want to be and who I can be, rather than being defined by the fact that whether the people will be with me or not. But this is also not melancholic and self-fulfilling prophecy-driven pieces to say that भाड़ में जाओ किसी की परवाह नहीं. No, not that. It is एकला चलो रे. And then दूसरा thought process around that is कि मैं अकेला ही चला था जाने में मंजिल मगर लोग मिलते गए और कारवां बनता गया. So you keep on walking.
नहीं, my question is rather ये जो आप ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस या करेज की बात कर रहे थे, तो हाउ डू यू बिल्ड दैट करेज? Because that is lacking a lot. So, I mean, I've had personal experiences of working with a lot of working professionals, leaders, and they're just brewing conflict. या जो candid nature आप बोल रहे हो कि जैसे है वैसे बता दो. They are not able to find that courage to say, अच्छा ये बकवास idea है.
For the reason that you believe that you will lose something by doing that. The moment you can remove yourself from the idea that you will lose something because of it, that day you are good.
Or be comfortable that even if you lose that thing, you will find another thing that is of.
That's where again the idea of social currency comes into picture. Because your social currency will ensure that you have another door which is out there. And shutting one door doesn't mean that the world is closed for you.
Yeah.
So a lot of this confidence emanates from that. But even when this was not there, that confidence was still there. Why? In my 14 years of working career, which I did, I left every single job without having another job in hand. Because I was,
you know you'll find something.
Because I was of the view कि कुछ तो मिल जाएगा. And because I had never had too much of a debt. Most often than not, in our corporate work environment, we are not in a position to take calls because we have debt.
I agree.
We have so much of EMIs to give and so on and so forth. And why do you have so much of EMIs? For the simple reason that you are just... No, not ज़रूरतें. हमारा लालच और हमारी greed. I know of a gentleman, extremely dear friend of mine. He's he's chief business officer of a large NBFC. And he's telling me for last 4 years, यार अभिशांत अब छोड़ता हूँ तब छोड़ता हूँ. And every single time I talk to him and he said, यार बड़ा घर ले लिया. So बस if you will keep on moving from a 1, 2, 3, 4 BHK, then you will never move out of that rut.
I like how you used the BHK example for, I think for Bombay it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
The shift is really big, right?
Yeah.
For you to go there. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time, energy, and I personally learnt a lot.
Pleasure.
And it was fabulous.
Thank you, Abhishant.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
This is going to be hopefully first of many.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we've just peeled
Scratch the surface.
one layer of who you are, of what I know.
Yeah.
So we'll of course kind of start here, and hopefully many more.
Absolutely, and I will possibly push you people to the direction wherein a Urdu poet from Lucknow stated, which is द्वंद कब तक टाला जाए, युद्ध कब तक टाला जाए, द्वंद कब तक संभाला जाए, तू भी है राणा का वंशज, फेंक जहाँ तक भाला जाए. So if for your conversation, please try to push and उतना लंबा फेंको भाला कि साला किसी की पकड़ में ना आए. What do I mean by that is keep on pushing people with questions which help them unveil themselves in the journey, and that's where the conversations will become better.
I think we were very happy to see you unveil yourself for us, and I think finding that confidence in all of us will make us better professionals, better human beings, and the world is so big, and it was beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you once again, Abhishek.
Pleasure. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.